The first 3 weeks of the eruption here in Hawaii, crazy things would happen in the middle of the night. A new fissure would open up and it would threaten a new neighborhood. Thousands of people are evacuated from their homes. I started the Hawaii Tracker Facebook group to help people understand what's going on and get their questions answered.
Hey, how's it going? We're live. This is Fissure 20.
We had hundreds of people all throughout the neighborhoods sending in videos, articles, and images. We spend a lot of time making sure the accurate information gets out.
This is live. There's still lava moving.
They weren't just sharing a story, they were helping their neighbor. If a family was being evacuated, my group would just jump in and help out. So it was huge. They were watching out for each other.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the support from everybody.
As we go through this, we're growing closer together as a community. When tragedies like this strike, you really realize how much you need each other.
We are the Hawaiian Volcano Education and Resilience Institute, HVERI for short. A lot of people know us from the 2018 eruption of Kīlauea in the Lower East Rift Zone. Working under Hawaii Tracker on the Facebook group. Since then, we've been trying to carry on and take the lessons, the hard lessons that were learned during that eruption and try and prepare for the next major disaster that comes to our island.
Yeah, so we do that through two different programs. One is volcano education, and the other part is digital resilience, which we address through online groups on social media. So the way the two programs work together is that the social media networks end up being a distribution pathway for all the information. And having that network in place means we can provide more than just volcano education, but any other preparedness information as well.
What we were working for really came about in the Kona Low eruption in 2022. Within hours of that eruption starting, we had the mayor, Mitch Roth, we had USGS HVO Ken Hahn on the stream trying to help flush out a little bit of the ongoing because it's so new. It's completely different from our previous major eruption, which was 2018.
One of the things that Talmadge and I were talking about was how do we deal with social media? And it was something we needed to figure out and get right. Our job is to get information to the public and make sure that the public get it as well as possible and as correctly as possible. When Philip and Dane started coming to you and live streaming the meetings, it was great because we were reaching more people than we normally would. So when the eruption actually happened, we had this relationship. The interviews we did during the eruption, the most fun ones were the ones with Philip and Dave because they were more relaxed, and we knew we were getting to the local community, and people were asking questions. So those were the best. I think I just want to really give a shout out to those guys and how we worked as a team on this eruption. It really worked out well, and we got to a lot of people we wouldn't have normally gotten.
Everyone, welcome to our Hawaiian Volcano Tracker for March 19th, 2026. We are HVERI, nonprofit Hawaiian Volcano Education Resilience Institute. I'm geologist Philip Ong, joined by Mr. Dane DuPont here today, as well as our ASL interpreters, Daniel and Kiri, as always, with help from on the back end. So Dane, I would normally ask you how your week's been, but I know it's been a busy, challenging week. How are you doing?
Yeah, we're still recovering from the Kona Low, the storm system that came through, the extratropical cyclone from the south that came up and put down a decent amount of wind and a lot of rain. We'll talk about that more, but I've been without power since Friday, and yeah, getting ready to go on a week.
Yeah, running off the generator today, huh?
Yep.
A little bit upgrade from the old school hub days, but still,
Right.
same
Yeah.
kind of resilience needed.
Yeah. This brought to you by Honda, the generator out there, just putting in work.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, it's been pretty quiet in the volcano. Actually, pretty socked in because of the weather being the dominating story for this week. But as usual, we'll go through what signals we can see what effect the rain has had on volcano and the signals, and then talk some of the storm damage and effects with Dane leading that later on.
Yep.
So
let's do it.
As usual, Lou will be leading discussion in the chat, collecting some questions we can pepper in as you guys see fit, and otherwise we'll start off with our summary as usual here.
Let's do it.
Our screen turned around here. And all right. Aloha, everyone. This is our Hawaiian volcano summary for March 19th, 2026. Kīlauea has been quiet over the last week, mostly fogged in because of the stormy weather on Hawaii'i Island. The Kona Low that came through and dumped more than 2 feet of rain in some parts of South Hawaii, over 120 centimeters. So right now you see a live view with the V3 camera showing the massive degassing volcanic emissions, as well as extra steam from the recent rainfall in the area. But we can show you one key revision from episode 43 we saw was last week laid off the press to revise the fountain heights to 1,770 feet, 540 meters, making it the record highest eruption fountain of this current eruption. Looking historically, now our 2023 or 2024 to 2026 eruption has matched the highest fountain heights at Mauna Ulu, exceeded those of Pu'u'o, and is still a little bit lower than the record fountains at Kīlauea back in 1959. Other data released about episode 43 include this tephra fallout map showing the concentration of the highest density and size fallout much closer to the caldera. This is in comparison to the map we had for episode 41, which you can see had a much broader distribution to the east. Visually on a volcano this past week, this is a view from the KW camera. You can see lots of obscured time frames here, periods, with otherwise glimpses at this fuming, steaming crater floor. And from the other side of the crater, in daylight hours as well, this is the B1 camera, similarly blocked in by lots of rain, lots of steam, not much to see visually apart from the interaction of the weather and the earth here. So finally, the V3 camera at night, we can see there's been some glow. This also obscured by the weather for some periods right in here. But recently to recent days, you can see that the glow still persists primarily from the south vent on the left side of the frame here. We have had effects of the rainfall evident on the tilt meter. This blue line is the summit line here, and you can see that our drop episode 43 is followed by the expected recovery post episode 43, and you can see this interruption, this deviation here as a result of the effect of rainfall in the summit area. The line in green is the rift zone, and you can see a similar effect over there as well in the opposite direction in that case. Zooming out to the 3-month time frame, you can see that little blip is just on the right side of the graph here. And otherwise, we are on this recovery trend towards the next episode, episode 44, with this effect of the rainfall perhaps causing a little bit of change in trend here. All that said, even given those recent changes, USGS now forecasts preliminarily the window for episode 44 between April 1st and 10th. So that is the outlook presently. In between episodes, we still have gas being lit in front of the volcano. And with continuing stormy weather and southerly winds, we have a lot of that fog distributed from the south to north, impacting areas across Hawaiʻi Island as the storm approaches. Current conditions from purple air, you can see that there are some red values here in a volcano area at present, and had climbed past the red into the purples and maroons earlier in the day. So certainly watch out for the gas and other pollutants that might be dust or other effects elsewhere on the island with its changing winds. Earthquake-wise, it's been pretty quiet. We've had a decrease in some of the earthquakes with the rain event. Otherwise, ongoing South Flank events and deep Pahala events continue, with counts over the past month shown here. You can see it fairly quiet over the last week. And that's our Hawaii volcano summary for this week. So let's move on to our hazard summary, which is really just the gases at this point. Tephra isn't blowing around so much when it's not being propelled into the air. And interesting that we had a last episode with these record high fountains now with less distribution because of that really amplified effect of the wind. Right? So the wind is one of the more important things as far as determining what the impacts of the volcano will be. So once again, daytime views from the V1 camera, you can saw it dancing around there. There were plenty of times where we had the gas blowing left to right, and other times where we had blockage from the steam clouds themselves. And occasionally, let's switch back to the trade winds, as you see here in this most recent frame from last evening. Similarly, from the KW camera, I like these wide crater views that stay static. You can really see how that gas is blowing from right to left. Then you can see the rain comes in, the camera lens is all wet here. You see these frames where there's lots of steam across the entire caldera floor. And then other times where it's more of the persistent degassing spots. So right after it dumps rain, you can see that everything turns white. And then as the water boils off and steams away, you get the reduced footprint of it. Although really interesting to see, especially the crater walls have been going for a while now in this recent rain. You gotta imagine anything that falls up here works its way through the ground and probably comes off in this direction as well. So those crater walls could steam for a while after heavy rainfall. Current conditions, courtesy of the VOG Measurement Prediction Program, emissions of 1,500 tons per day are what we expect our average between our episodes here. And with current weather conditions, that gives you this forecast of what's coming first in SO2 dispersal from Kīlauea to the north here into this upper slopes of Hilo into the saddle there between Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea as well. So all through there, and you can see sweeping across from the south at the start of this animation here. That's SO2, the pure form of pollutant, and the aerosols that form a little bit later and last a little longer from that source gas. You can see distributed in that same kind of pattern here, but maybe a little bit extra effect over towards Waikoloa and all the way up to Hawaii as well. And in fact, you could imagine that there could be some effect onto some of the other islands as well, depending on exactly the direction of the swirling wind here. So that's our VOG forecast dashboard. And we're back to our purple air data set here. And let's see if this will show us some fresh data. There it is. You can see mostly in the green, especially all along the Kona coast. A few readings in Hilo, but nothing really significant, you'd say. It's really the spike right near Volcano today, and it looks like something's going on in Waimea. But given that we don't see much in between, I would doubt that I would not want to immediately say it's fog. It might be something like a dust storm or something like that. Could be putting particles into the air as well, which would show up on this kind of monitoring network as well. So without digging further into that and really knowing the answer, we're really concerned with the volcanic signals over here. And you can see there's a couple of sites over here. It looks like this site in purple air must have been up pretty recently. So I'm looking at the history here. It doesn't really go back that far into time. But you can see that it's in the red currently. This one over here that's showing 0 at present right now, back a little while ago was in a purple itself. So just a slight shift in the wind from blowing this stuff this way to blowing it this way. Now you see stations like the visitor center over here also showing that big spike. Let's make that bigger in case anyone's looking at a tiny device here, as much as we can. So there we go. Friday, 12 a.m. Well, it's showing in different times on here, but so this would be on Thursday, earlier today. All right, let's move on to our state interactive maps. And that air quality index is similar. Nothing in the red in this case. See, they're not using those stations in the volcano area, which is why we prefer purple air. But it does show you some of the other state associated sites. And then we also have a national park, which you can see they are showing Volcano Arts Center Station as in the orange with persistent impacts over the morning. Everything else in the crater is green at present. And we can look at the charts, wrapping up our hazards here, showing that there's been lots of impact in the park. You can see SO2 at the Art Center has been high for over an hour now, but also that happened earlier this morning. That was also true at Uekahuna for SO2. And as far as particulate matter, which is what that purple arrow can detect, right? That's the difference in these. Those ones are registering effects also at the Art Center earlier this morning and at the campground earlier this morning as well. Steam vents also SO2 recently back online here. There are some data gaps in here, it looks like. Even Honau got some particulate matter yesterday there. It's worth noting that the storm had impacts other than just putting signals on the data, but actually disrupting the communication infrastructure. So some of that not only has it knocked off power to communities and residences, but it sometimes has knocked powers or the antennas and directions where the data isn't always coming in and requires maintenance. We've seen this typically across storms, usually with USGS, and that's true this week as well, but more rarely with the park, and that maybe is what's happening over here at the steam vents earlier today. So that is our hazard summary. And with that, I'll switch over to our monitoring signals, and we'll just step through some of the text updates that have come through over the past week. And to sort of start us off, last week, Friday, after our update, we were post episode 43. We were seeing some intermittent glow from the south vent, earthquakes deep Pahala. And at that point, we knew that the storm was coming. And you can note the USGS at that early point actually highlights that heavy rains are expected and can create false readings on some monitoring instruments, particularly tilt meters. So yay, I've been leading this crusade for a long time here, talking about the effect of rain on tilt meters. I'm glad to see it finally in updates here. Also, they've noted the V1 camera was damaged internally and had to be replaced at that point in time. That's where they were on Friday. Stepping forward to Saturday, the only real change is that they noted the change in fountain heights, right? They actually, at this point, say South Fountain reaches 1540 and North Fountain 1400. That actually means to say 1770 eventually. So what they explain this further in the next day's update, I believe. So on Sunday, they say the correct number was 1770, 540 meters for the south vent, north vent over 1400 feet, 430 meters, both records for this eruption. Final measurements are made from trigonometrically, right? They're using triangles and angles there to figure out the heights, basically. High resolution cameras that have to be manually downloaded after the eruption. So that's why it takes a little while, but they revise it upwards, probably because it is notable that it was the record here. They also note the V2 camera went offline to a power outage. V1 camera remains damaged. So a lot of other things to note here that are not actively volcanically happening, but notable. So coming forward to Monday, we're still having glow. They note high winds and heavy rains occurred the previous day, Sunday, which impacted the monitoring network, caused an ongoing outage at UWD, that's the Uekahuna digital tilt meter. And also note, aberrant signals are observed during storm conditions at other data stations. So I see that they're continuing to also hammer home this impact of the rain and the tilt meters. Coming to Tuesday, you know that the forecast window is still March 30th to April 8th, right there. They note ongoing instrument outages still occurring, as well as aberrant signals at other stations. We'll keep it moving. We'll come forward to Wednesday, where we have a daily update. And you can see that the window now is shifted to April 1st, April 10th, because of this slowdown and a tilt, perhaps related to the rebound that's affected by the amount of rain in the ground, right? That water all has a weight, which actually affects the ground in very minor ways. But these instruments are so sensitive, they can detect and be impacted by that until the water drains away, which happens more slowly than it falls down, right? Basically. So especially when it's happening underground, right? So that's why the rebound can be impacted, and we'll see if we ended up being closer to the start of this, which would be where I would put my money, or towards the end, because of that effect of the rainfall. So that is the update for Wednesday. But also we have on Wednesday a surprise volcanic activity notice issued, and nothing new actually happened. The most important thing is this first sentence right here, that the rules have changed thanks to some USGS policy, where the aviation notices and associated activity notices are now required to be repeated every week or every day for volcanoes at red, every week for volcanoes at orange, and every 2 weeks for volcanoes at yellow. So we might get some extra of these VONAs and VANs here every 2 weeks while we're at orange, and perhaps some bonus ones during the episodes as well. So otherwise, there's not much really to talk about in that update. Here's the aviation one. And today's update finally, which puts us here, April 1st, April 10th, ongoing glow, primarily from the south vent. Dane, help me out here for a second.
Oh, yep. So yeah, we've just been going through this. It's interesting to see that that van come out, that, you know, the new protocol, so to speak, because I saw a van on the email and was like, wait, what's happening? And then it's just like, nothing's happening. This is just protocol now. So I don't know if I missed the announcement of that, but yeah, that is the new, you know, lay of the land, so to speak, is how things are going to proceed. So we're going to get a lot more vans for this episode,
right?
This episodic eruption, because it's always in that territory.
Yeah, it's always been challenging to be Kīlauea and try to fit into these, you know, like maybe for like a volcano like St. Helens or Rainier, right? If like it's at orange, yeah, I definitely want to make sure to have an update every 2 weeks. Yeah, Kīlauea has always been its own, dancing to its own beat over here, right? It's completely on its own timeline separately, so it doesn't really ever fit in a box that well. So unfortunately to me, this means we're going to get extra bureaucratic updates here that are not going to do anyone any good, except by watering down the data source of the things that you normally are noteworthy, right? Right, as of before this past week, every single activity notice and aviation notice has been directly related to some major change of the eruption. And that is now no longer going to be the case. Right. It's as simply as I can put it, right? So
now you have to open it to see if it's something serious or something that's just, oh, this is just that time of the month or that time of the week or that time of the every other week, right, whatever they're on at that time.
Well, they're keeping us on our toes, making our website and updates even harder for everyone to follow and decipher, so that unfortunately for them. Fortunately for us, means we'll have to keep doing this kind of thing, or hopefully someday get them to come on here and realize that they can do it a little different too. Have them tell us directly what's going on. So, in the most recent update here for Thursday, our window is still April 1st, April 10th. No activity at either rift zone. We're still having ongoing instrument outages around the summit because of the high winds and heavy rain. There was a new power outage affecting the telecommunications chain that HVO uses to transmit data from the monitoring stations to the websites, and that occurred this morning, being out from 6:30 to 9:15, affecting multiple seismic, camera, GPS, and tilt stations. So, and we still have the V2 camera offline with the V1 camera damaged still. That's basically it. Otherwise, the background activity that suggests episode 44 is still coming is all the same as we expect. That's something we barely talk about anymore. Seismic tremor bursts correlating with peak temperatures recorded by the thermal cameras, gas emissions. So like that's the whole gas pistoning process happening there. Thus far, we're up 11.6 microradians in net out of the 33.7 we lost. So that's something like 28%, or somewhere between a quarter and a third of it, more or less, with that caveat that there might be some effect of the rainfall. It's hard to calculate and account for, and that's embedded in there too. So that's our text update. So just to show you some of the graphs here, I'm going to put this back to the top here. So all data courtesy of the USGS Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. I'm looking at just this 1 week tilt signal. You can see right there, that's the data outage right there that occurred at the UWD tilt meter. You can see it's back online. Here's another little outage that occurred this morning, a little flat line, right? I don't know if you can even see that right in there. Earthquakes over the last week, they're still occurring, just not at any crazy rates. If anything, what's interesting is that this is right here, kind of the rain bump, so to speak, at Uatuhuna. After the rain starts coming, you actually might see a slowdown in earthquakes during that time, as the ground is adjusting to the weight of the water. But like that's nothing permanent or long term. It's just maybe possibly even lubricating those fault lines in a way where the earth doesn't have to release energy in earthquake form, but it can just slide along. Sometimes that's something that can happen when everything is under stress. So that's maybe the most curious impact. Otherwise, we have had no impact of no real effect on the eruption of the storm. We will see that there, been minor effects on the lava flows themselves, the steaming. The most we've ever seen is a lava lake sitting there and a rainstorm causing it to overturn. We didn't have a lava lake sitting around. We haven't had one of those sitting around for a while, so we're not seeing that kind of effect. There's really nothing much to talk about as far as interaction otherwise. Otherwise, we really can see the earthquakes per day. That big gap right there, right, is that day with the highest rainfall impact on the tilt meter too. So that is a curiosity that's interesting. But it seems like we've just picked back up where we left off once the rain stopped falling there. So there's a map of earthquakes, and you can see from the map that there are still events ongoing in the south flank. And really, if anything, where it's been lacking is the summit region right up there, where we know that there was a huge amount of rain fell up in this area, right? As well as all the way across all here, right? But south flank, a little bit less affected than the summit, perhaps, in that context. The deeper Impala events are still ongoing over there. We'll get into detail of that today. But there they are in cross section to the side. We still have a couple of deep events under Kīlauea straight down. That's here to the south, and it's thought to feed in at depth into the volcano as well. We've discussed that also previously and recently. Where in the last month, you see that population much more clearly there under the summit, and then dragging out to the south over here as well. And then cross section, that's all those directly underneath the volcano, apart from the Bahala earthquakes, which are still very active as well. Yeah. So, okay, now looking at our month-long summit and east rift tilt, the signal is a little bit more muted. from what I showed in our summary there. So in a bigger context of the change here, there's our almost 34 microradian drop during episode 43. There's our recovery, which you can see is overall following the pattern with this little bump right there. And then maybe it's slowing down a little bit further, right? So if you were to draw what effect the rain might have and try to draw it upside down here, it'd be like, something like that, right? That would be highest effect at the start, and then taking longer and more slowly draining away and impacting it. So we'll see whether we come back up and recover that, or whether that's a long-term impact. We'll have to just wait and see. But still, also depth versus time for the last month, similar gap, a little bit more evident and striking here. And you can see just in the shallow region, not so much deep pahala. Right, it looks like this gap was all of the oranges and reds. So summit and south flank getting quiet right there. And that's that gap right there. It's really the most interesting thing about the storm data. Over the last 3 months, there is that little blip right there. You can see it doesn't look too different from our natural deflation and inflation cycles that we had here that followed episode 43. It's hard to tell if anything like that is actually happening over here. Following 42, leading up to 43. So following 43 is the same thing happening. It's hard to tell because of the rain signal right there as well. So that's the counterpoint to maybe that rain is showing a false slowdown, and maybe there is some real slowdown happening because of that deflation inflation cycle. Hard to pick all that apart, but those are all the contributing factors you would expect. And for the whole eruption, there is that pattern, the recent pattern, with the peaks decreasing in absolute values here, but dropping similarly large amounts each time when they do produce an episode. So we're working our way back up. We're at least 10 days away, according to the current models from the USGS. So for the last year, we're looking at earthquakes per week now. One single day doesn't show any aberrations, so you can see we're pretty steady here in our events. No extra earthquakes like we had earlier in the year. And in fact, it looks like we're coming a little bit lower here in the earthquakes per month over the last 5 years. So our GPS monitoring signals, here is a summit showing that same stretching out between episodes, a big contraction in this distance north and south across caldera during the episode, and here it's recovering again, not seeing as much impact, anything visible there from the storm. This, of course, is just one data point per day, as opposed to the tilt meters coming in every few minutes. So for the last 5 years, here's a summit GPS, and here we are in this accordion pattern that's stretching up and down, but overall expanding at a slightly slower rate than we've seen in previous summit eruption eras. So, all right, let's move on to earthquakes now. And as I mentioned just now, earthquakes have been kind of light, so we might go a little quicker. Here's our earthquakes colored by depth. So there's our deep pahala ones. There are 4.4 from last week that came in while we were on air. A couple of other events here on North Hawaiian Island, deep settling events as well. Still having some shallow sporadic events around Mauna Loa as it continues to refill, and on its east flank especially as that adjusts with Kīlauea's pressure back and forth. So let's see if I can get this to zoom it out one way and then zoom it in a different way. All right, so a little bit more detail there. This pahala cluster has got some interesting extensions. It seems like almost like you have one arm that way, one arm this way, and one arm this way. And then we've also seen that this can bend up that way. And then there seems to be that southerly route over this way. There's lots of different pathways, like roots of a tree that come into the volcano here. And with multiple trees all around, not to forget the offshore volcano here, then all those interact here in the middle at this deep source. There's our south flank events, nothing at the summit, and lots of events here between Mauna Loa and Kīlauea right there. So I was trying to zoom in on so we can draw this relationship through there as Kīlauea fills and swells. We saw that a coordinating process. It's putting more pressure on Mauna Loa before the episodes and less afterwards, and so Mauna Loa can also adjust in response, or as well as magma fills its interior too, and it pushes off, trying to move and adjust continually too. So that's the earthquakes by depth. Here they are by size. So over the last week now, the largest event comes in under a 3. Down here, the shallow ocean view area, 2.9. One just by itself. The next ones are all deep Pahala events. So all just normal background for this volcano, nothing really that striking. The newest event, 1.9 here at Mauna Loa summit, 2 miles down. Actually, it's on the east flank between the summit and Kīlauea summit, in that adjustment zone right in the middle there. So all right, that's all the monitoring signals. We'll switch gears a little bit now. Let's go first to our volcano watch, which this week is titled Pele, Lono, and Hi'iaka, reminding us of nature's powers. It's a reflection on a stormy week as well. And noting how these processes of cleanup, recovery, and regrowth have been recognized and embodied in Native Hawaiian oral traditions about Pele, Lono, and Hi'iaka. There's an image of the ohia tree with a lehua blossom and a fountain in the background, episode 27 there. Essentially, let's see here, what I can highlight to share with you. Volcanic processes, according to Native Hawaiians, are the work of Pele Hunuamea, Pele, the creator of land. So there's your one elemental. When you have storms from all these directions, including hurricanes, cyclones, and Kona Lows, those are the work of Lono, who brings fertility to the land, including thunder and lightning as well. And after eruptions and storms, recovery begins, and vegetation comes back up through the volcanic deposits or storm damage, and those are the actions of Hi'iaka to regreen the land. So that's the interaction that's being highlighted by the USGS HVO today, and so you can read this in more detail if you want to dive into that here further. So that's Volcano Watch this week, and now we'll turn to the visual observations, which once again, live look into the V3 camera here, showing a couple of things. One, a lot of fume coming out from the vents, south vent and north vent. We've seen them billowing thick like this recently as well, even without big rain, but the rain maybe is causing more of this steam and fog at the upper levels. On this camera today, we've seen rain falling across. It's still raining up here from time to time, off and on, as that next front approaches. So that's the V3 camera. The V1 camera looks like this. Damaged and obscured, putting out this nice hissing sound if you put the sound on. So we'll not do that. And here's a V3 camera currently offline. So what do we have? Usually in this kind of weather, one of the best things to use is a thermal camera. So here is the F1 camera, and you see it does flash these orange frames when it also is blocked by all this fume. But otherwise, it can see through lighter fume and clouds, and you can see the current state of the vents putting out heat, as well as flows on the crater floor also putting out heat as recently as earlier this morning. That's the F1. Looking at the V1, both daytime and nighttime, you can just see this gray and black flashing back. That was what nothing could be seen out of these cameras during these storms. Not really much to say there. I'm trying to make this go by. There it is. It emerges there a little bit at the end. You can see a few views, something like this. You can see some of that damage on there too. From the V2, it's a little better. The camera does go out eventually, but you see a little bit more of that fume bouncing around. Some of the flows still oozing there the first few days after the eruption ends. Episode ends last week. And the V3, let's split it off and show you guys the daytime views by themselves. So there are Kona winds left to right. rain coming in here, lots of fume and steam on the crater floor. More southerly winds. Oh, there's a little bit of trade winds, flip back, and you can see flip back across over here by earlier. So that's daytime. And then to end here, my segment, this will be the nighttime views. Some incandescence over here above the north vent. That was a south vent. This is a period of heaviest rain, so all that steam you'd see in the daytime will be blocking this view at nighttime unless the glow is strong enough, which occasionally it seems to be, and that's that kind of pistoning process with lava and a conduit rising and falling and rising and falling, causing the tremor and as little variations until and degassing and all of that. So that's the highlight of the volcanic visible observations here. And otherwise, most of what we have to see was other impacts of Lono on the island here, Dane. So maybe let's get Lou in here and he can add some observations on Kīlauea and then talk about some of the storm impacts too.
Sounds good, and we'll see you in a minute there, Phil. We do have one question for you. If you want to do those before we get into, do you want to do that now, maybe?
Sure.
All right. Hugh asks, vertical fountain help. I wonder if some of the sideways fountain might have exceeded that. The fountain height of 1770. Some of those.
Yeah, that's possible, I suppose, right? Because I mean, you're not getting a full. I don't know. I suppose. It's hard to say, right? We know that they went sideways a long distance, but it's not really apples to apples compare those to the ones that go straight up.
Right.
Is it?
All right. So that's the question, and we will get Lou in here and see what he's got for us. All right. Thank you, Phil. Hey, Lou.
Hey.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm just watching all the video and images that Phil was playing there and just kind of recapping our week. It's been an interesting one for any type of observations, especially since when we lose visual observations, we rely on instruments, and then the instruments go down. So a lot of it, we're kind of flying blind, so to speak. So let's pull up here what I have for us this week. First of all, I want to throw up here talking about that V1 camera. Dano, you all right? Hold on, I think Dano's missing my audio. You got me now? Okay, good. This is off the V1. I just, while we were sitting here, I was just kind of scanning through there. It's toast up there, but there's still got something coming through there, and I don't know what kind of audio is actually the hissing, the rain, the combination. It's pretty interesting.
Snakes.
No, snakes. It's possible. That is possible. Let's take a look at the week observations that we have here. Thanks to my crew that keep an eye on things. This is a morning shot or an evening shot on the 17th, and you can see the flames in the background, the glowing that's going on. It's happening. We just can't see much of it.
Right. Call those whiteout conditions, a little different than the mainland whiteouts.
Right. Exactly. It's been incredible. I don't remember in the last year or so completely whited out up there like this. There's another shot a little bit later, a little more light pushing through, so you can see a little bit more of the floor.
Yeah, just really hard to get any observations during these heavy rain times. And it was like this in 2018 as well. For those that don't remember, Hurricane Lane showed up and dumped 50 inches or something crazy.
Yeah.
In
overnight.
days. In a few days, and it created just an entire whiteout over the flows, just miles of it. It was
So, and here's some shots off of some still shots. And even though the weather was horrific, you still had some people making their way up top. This is out the Waikahuna overlook. As a reminder, the barriers, ropes, cables, and the signage, there are out of bounds areas. So even though the storm is going on, there's still areas that are off limits. This is a shot. BB pulled this for me and shows the rain just shooting sideways up there. It was nuts.
Yep. Some nasty conditions over the past week.
Yeah. Still going on. still going on up there, but where are we at right now? We're at 9 days or so into this pause. 10 day, where are we at? I think we're right around there.
Yeah.
Here's one last shot. This is on the 19th, 18th. Some more glows going on. Beautiful shots. I mean, honestly, you can't get better combination of the light and the dark with the glow going off there, the flames happening.
It's been the story of the week right there.
Pretty much.
That's good conditions right there.
Those are compared to what we've been in. Those are great conditions. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, so that's pretty much our observations for the week up at the caldera. Steady as she glows, like so to speak. Right? Yeah, we're 8 days, 23 hours, so just about 9 hours now, or 9 days into this pause. Well, maybe next week we'll, after this next Kona Low goes through, we'll have a little bit better visuals. Hey, if we make it. By the way, before we jump into Community Corner, I just want to say, first of all, I have my power back on. Dana's still out, so I won the prize.
Yeah,
we weren't sure who was going to be out longer.
Yeah, it's a whole thing, and I can't believe just the lack of information, but we'll talk about that more.
Yep, we'll get into that. Community Corner, let's go ahead and add this up here. There we go. And before we start clicking through this, I want to say to our deaf community, I saw that you had a deaf camp this week. Is that right, Dano? And so congratulations to you all for pulling that out. I see other people from the mainland were also here for it. So congratulations on pulling that off. Looks like you guys had a good time
here for that.
All right, so let's go through our Community Corner here, and this is going to be some updates of what's been going on and what is still happening, because we're looking at another storm in the face. Tonight is the night. If you are here on the island, whether you are a resident or you are a visitor, it is good to know what is going on, and there are support services out there available. Those experiencing power or internet disruption. There's places that are having events and things, so you can get some resources. This is an important message from Civil Defense here. I need to move my screen. Give me 1 second here. There we go. Vibrant Hawaii is pretty much the leader of what's been going on in organization. The Hawaii County Health Department is working, HVNP, Hawaii County CERT. There is Doug Wilson. He is the VERT commander, and his number there and his email as well. You can give them a call if you have questions. The American Red Cross is also available. Post Kona Low storm assistance information, Hawaii County Civil Defense, and following organizations will be set up at the Cooper Center today, Tuesday, 3/17 through Friday, 3/20. So still open tomorrow. That's up in the volcano area from 2 to 6. If you need information, this is the QR code, and you can also text Hawaiʻi alerts to 888-777. Dane, this is an interesting shot here. This is, I don't know if you know where this is at. We passed this quite a bit recently, you and I.
Naleo?
Yep, bingo. That is the little Asian market there, and then that is the old original gas pumps that look like the gas pumps might not be there. I can't quite tell that are from there. Looks like patching the roads together.
Yeah, I can't remember. Nope.
So here is just a little something I put together quick as a reminder before the storm. We've already went through one. We have another one coming, but we're only a short time away from hurricane season starting in June. So some of the things to think about for what you need to get ready. And if you go to any of these events that are happening around the island right now for resources, pick up their checklists, check up their plans, have a plan in place. The last thing we all need to do is run around in a circle when these things happen. So just some thoughts right there. Hawaiian Acres and the Pahoa community are providing ice and water distribution that's going on today. Hopefully you got that. Haka, the Hawaiian Animal Kīlauea Alliance. What's that?
You went back.
Oh, I went back. Oh, nope, right there. I'm there. That's for animals. I'm on animals. I just made them.
Oh,
be ready for disruptions before a storm hits. Same thing applies to your animals. And we live here on the Big Island, and the majority of us all live with animals here. So having a plan in place for your animals is also important. Drinking water, food for them, carriers if you have to go to a shelter. That's all very important here. There's the Hawaiian Animal Kīlauea Alliance. This was a rescue program they did to get certified in rescuing. You can check them out at their website there. You can get this checklist for your pets. They're on social media. Send them a message. Check them out. If you have issues, they're the ones to talk to here. They played quite a pivotal role in the 2018, didn't they, Dane?
Yep.
Current as of this morning, things change all the time here with the storm, but parts of the park are opening up here. KMC General Store is open. The gas pumps are online, which is nice to hear. I never seem to be able to get gas up there. And the 10-pin grill and bowling alley are open. And if you need some flapjacks, the breakfast is being served. So that's what's going on up at the park right now. Here's some shots up there. Just some of the mayhem. Dane's going to give us a whole rundown of all kinds of images that are coming soon. This massive eucalyptus tree that came down. Chances of tipping that back up to grow?
Yeah, right.
Probably not.
But that came down late too. I think it was like 2 days ago or something.
Yep,
days
sure
after
did.
the storm, but still rainy and still just saturating the ground more and more.
Yep. Another shot there, sweeping the roads, whether it's been tephra or just branches. The park is busy. The park is busy. There's a shot of the lava lounge, the roof that came down there. And the total whiteout conditions wasn't just in the caldera, it was throughout the park.
And Puna too in those days.
Yeah, that's right. And Puna. And there we go, Dane.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank everybody that tuned in today. But first, going to throw a little shout out to the Bye grant program, as well as the Kīlauea recovery grants that the County of Hawaii have do to help support this program, as well as our digital resilience and youth development programs. So we appreciate that support. But we like to thank everybody that tuned in today. The likes, subscriptions, the shares, all that stuff really does help. We did have some new donators come in today, or some continued donators, some longtime supporters. We had Norm with a $20 super chat. We had Royalyn with a $25 donation over on hvary.org/donate. Gregory also with a 25, and then Gary B came through with a $200 donation. Appreciate all the support there, guys. But really, the likes, subscriptions, the shares, all that stuff really does help. You being here with us today, we appreciate that. All right, so ready to get into some storm damage there, Lou?
Yeah, you want me to show them? I have two from the ground before you
go
want
for
to
it.
roll. You want to throw mine in here? Let me go in here real quick. So first one is just everybody is seeing all kinds of stuff on the road and things that have been going on. Let's see here. Where is it? I think it's this one. This one here, I got to pause it. So it's going to be, I'm driving up. This is coming up Aina Loa, and it's going to be tough to see because I wasn't stopping to get a better shot. But that right there is a 10,000 gallon water catchment tank that just fell apart in it.
Man.
Yeah, crazy. This guy here also lost the front porch. I didn't catch that. I saw it in the rearview mirror, but I wasn't stopping. We got to go out for fuel to keep the generators running.
Right.
We don't want to screw around too much more. That's all I have right now. Let's roll your stuff.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get into it then. Oh, all right. So we had a exciting few days there with the storm. A lot of rain, a lot of wind, and ended up toppling a whole bunch of trees. What made this storm, somewhat special is how distributed it was. It wasn't like one place got it. So when we go back to 2014 and Tropical Storm Azelle, the damages from it were localized. They were to Lower Puna and Upper Puna, but Hilo was more or less untouched, the rest of the island untouched, as well as the other islands. So it allows resources to be, brought in and concentrated. But this one hit all the islands and all across the island. So resources have been stretched unimaginably thin throughout this. So let's just take a look at some damage to start with. Here was a Onizuka store up in this is up by you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just collapsed. It was an old building, but just taken through enough to get it there. But we also had the Happiness Bar. Its roof blew off as well. So just some of the damage that was around was showing the roofs getting ripped off. And this storm, it's a Kona Low, we call it, but it's really a type of tropical cyclone. So it's like a hurricane, so to speak. It's just different variation, but it really, the hurricanes, a lot of those we have glancing blows with. The Kona Low, though, when it comes in, it comes in hard. And this was one of the worst ones. Probably the worst Kona Low I've seen. So moving on, we also had, these were all, posted to Hawaii Tracker, just storm damage up in Volcano, lots of trees down, ohias, albesias, eucalyptus, whatever you can think of, probably ended up falling in this thing. I know I have a 20-foot, 25-foot section of a guavi that it ripped out and is right now still trying to get it off my fence. Oh, here we have a video from Alyssa just showing some. And just it was like this for days, right? It was torrential.
Didn't stop.
Didn't stop. We'll look at some of the rain levels, but just wanted to show what it was like and the sound too. Just on the 10 roofs, couldn't hear anything else really.
It was deafening.
Yeah.
We talk about the trees and everything that have been going down, and here at our place, we lost our 10 by 20 carport, and then a 33 by 25 foot greenhouse ripped to pieces. So a lot of structural damage, and that thing has made it through all these different storms and hurricanes we've had over the years. This was a ripper.
So do you know where Greenwell's Coffee is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this was a river that, I'm going to restart it here, that emerged and cut through the area, and they had a drone shot of it. Ross posted. And you can see just all of that damage, and just, you can try and get rid of the river, but that low-lying area, get enough water, you can just see how it cut through, uses driveways and things like that.
It's incredible.
Just how much water there was, and then you can see all the deposits down in the flat, down around the greenhouse. But yeah, probably lots of flood damage in that area due to this. And just look at that cut. It's kind of crazy. Moving on. Kona School got hit really hard in this thing.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, so they're going to be, closing campus for through next week, and then beginning distance learning, and at the end of the month. And there's just so much. It's so widespread that 70% of the space is damaged and unsafe for students. I'm going to just show some of that.
There it is. Now that's probably damage. That might be an improvement for the gym. If anybody has ever been to a high school weight room, it always could use a good floor cleaning.
But yeah, look at all that debris, and
that's horrible. Oh, they're messed up. Ugh, that's awful.
So moving on a little bit, we had Bob Martin submitted some stuff from down Alehu Way right after the storm, the day after, and you can see some of that fresh damage before it really got swept out of the road, getting all the rocks onto it. We also got that gas station there. Look, no pumps.
No pumps. Yep, pumps are gone. I hope they got them out
I think they
before.
were gone before. Like
When we came back from Ocean View, they were still there for that event. They were still there. I always watch for them.
And then we have that corner with all the debris on it. We've used this corner in some AI stuff we've done before, and then we'll come back to it. We did have some some people needing to evacuate, and we got this posted to Tracker. I wanted to just share real quick of
Is that
having to do. I don't think so.
It's not easy at all.
Right, but you just got to do what you got to do in these storms, and you get cattle to a spot that they can stay or whatever it may be. And yep. All right, moving on.
Oh yeah, this one hit national news.
Yeah, this one. Apparently, I didn't know them, but they're Big Island connected, the people that own that house, and they that river just eroded so much when it came through there, and don't really have any photos of it before, but just wanted to show some of the extent of that damage and how fast it can come. Right, and these are the well-known images that are out there at this point. There was a lot of fakes of this one as well, we saw, and then it finally collapsed into the river. So, speaking of rivers, let's look a little bit at the river height, because then on Big Island, one of the in Hilo side, one of the main rivers is the Wailuku, and we like to keep an eye on it when the storms come. Here we have the rain gauge height provided by the USGS that shows that it got a little bit over 8 feet there. That's really not into dangerous territory at all for that river. We have seen it get significantly higher, so it was nice to not have to deal with that. At least I want to show a little bit of the previous ones. So we had 8 and change here, but in 2023 we had a 13.7 reading in the river, and we had in 2020 a 21.4 foot reading. And then Hurricane Lane got to 23.75. And if I remember right, it was something, I think it was 22 feet is considered flooding, like heavy flooding. There before that in the 15s, I think there was a warning. But 22 on that river, I think, is the number where it's bad. So really that river, it didn't come, our river, Wailuku, didn't come up as much. And here's a picture of Rainbow Falls. Go back and you can see what it looked like with Hurricane Lane, right? Just look at that Rainbow Falls in the bottom right, what it looked like. And then
Completely different.
Yeah, this is what it looked like during the storm. So, it's rain, it's flooding. It's, the river's active, but not like we've seen before. But we did have some rainfall numbers. Want to just try and highlight some of these here on Big Island if we can. And these were, most of the rainfall got deposited on the south side of the island, with the west side and east side catching a good amount as well. And then also on the north, we have some rather large figures. So down south, we have 26 inches on this, but according to oh no, I'm missing one. Oh, well, we'll just go with these then. So I think these were 48 hours. Let's see. Through March 15th, right? So these were about 24, 48 hour totals, probably 48 hour totals. Lots of rain came down, but really it was a lot of the wind damage that caused a lot of the power outages that we saw. So this was the latest from Hawaiʻi Electric. Hawaiʻi Electric has this was a widespread event. So we have every island has damage. Helco is on all the islands, I believe, except for Kauai. So resources get pretty stretched thin, but the real noticeable thing is just how many people in Puna have been without power at this point, and as well as pockets around the island, right? And we'll take a look at the map here. for the outage map. This was taken on Tuesday. So we can see all those clusters, and then moving to today, we have a slight reduction in those numbers, but some areas, rising up. I'm not sure if that's just because of the map and how it's done and so many little localized clusters of outages. But, they're making progress, but right now we're getting ready for a second Kona Low. And, this was right now it's still kind of raining out, but the storm has passed. We are, in between waiting for the arrival of the next. So this was taken 2 nights ago, and just being able to see the stars again. But then we get the aftermath and the cleanup, so we can see the gas station here, as well as some of those same roads that we were looking at from Bob.
You just keep rubbing this gas station in, don't you?
Yeah. But look at that same corner, how quick it got cleaned up, right? And then just, getting all of the stuff off the sides and getting the road clear again. You can just see all the discoloration from all the mud and everything that was on there. And the County of Hawaii Department of Public Works been out there as well, trying to get everything cleared that they can and get repairs made. Oh, I keep hitting the wrong button.
Yeah, and that's a tough road too, because that's access to east side, west side of the island right there. It's one of our 3 routes. So that road gets closed down. We're down to 2 access points.
Right. So they're working to get that restored and restore as well as other roads that the county has. Right. And lots of just damage, widespread damage, trees down, it's not like a Zell where it's super concentrated. You have dozens of trees down all in, the same neighborhood, such that there's no way out. Everything's blocked in terms of access. But it's so distributed that the repairs are not coming easy. Well, I wanted to just highlight really quickly one of our, partner channels or partner groups on Facebook, Puna Weather and Harry Durgan's post today. So calling for some, light winds and some very humid scattered showers through tonight. And then we start to see some thunderstorm potentials and widespread bog possible, right, with the way in which the winds are blowing from the south. So it's nice of Harry to throw that in there, mentioning the VOC. But if you are, wanting more information about the upcoming system, we would do recommend checking out Puna Weather on Facebook and Harry Durgan. All right. And then just from the EMA, there is some rainfall predictions, forecasts, probabilities of participation. So from Friday, we're actually, looks like, not in the main path of this storm. And I have heard that it is not supposed to be as bad as the previous one. We shall see, but this is what is the Emergency Management Agency for Hawaii is putting out right now. Oh. And then on Saturday to Sunday, we're probably going to see some rain come through. We'll be standing by for that. And if you want to check these out, we have it, there's more information on weather.gov. And they do a lot of updates on there. They're just kind of hard to find. It's kind of a older user interface, but there is a bunch of information in there. And then lastly, Lou mentioned it, but Vibrant Hawaii is working with County of Hawaii to do requests for assistance. So if people are out there, they need assistance from the county, this would be the form to go do it. We have a link in the it is in the description of the video, and I'll go ahead. I think we can go ahead and drop it in chat as well.
Yep, can do.
All right, and that's, I think, mostly it. Yeah, that gets us through our storm update. I mean, it's been an experience. Frustrating. I do want to talk, briefly just about the power outages and the lack of information that has been going around on that. A lot of things are very vague and timelines are very wide, such that you don't know if you're getting power back in the next 5 minutes, 5 days, 2 weeks. No estimate. Like, Lou, when you got power back today, was that a surprise?
Yeah, there was no notice that it was going to be turned on at all today. I mean,
they didn't even mention that they were working in your area.
No,
they mentioned they were working in my area, and I didn't see them. So it's the information sharing, for people that are going on now a week almost without power, and don't know if they're going to get power back before the next storm hits, before next week, tonight. That's one of the more frustrating things about the whole thing is just, Helco crews are out there putting in a tremendous amount of work overnight, hundreds of employees, but they're not the ones that are sharing the info out.
Right.
And that's right now where I see a lot of the frustration is just people don't know. They don't know what to prepare for. They're told just prepare for extended outages, and then the power turns on tomorrow or in 5 minutes. So, I'm sitting here wondering if the power turns on tonight or if it's tomorrow or the next, who knows, right? And the best thing I have on that is just going out to the street, looking at the spot that has some damage to it, looking at the transformer that they need to work on, and see if they've done anything or not, right? And that's not a great update.
No, I mean, that honestly, unless we went out to get fuel, we didn't know anybody was doing anything. And I mean, and once in a while we would see somebody working on a pole, but we really didn't see people working. And the map on their app for the phone, right? It looks good, but it's odd because it only just says when the update was reported and then unavailable constantly. After 5 days, that unavailable starts to sting a little bit with no type of information.
Yep. All right. Well, that is all I have for here. We can go ahead and get Phil back in here, maybe. How are we going to do this? I'll move you out, and then we'll move Phil in and see what he wants to do. All right, Phil, what do you have? What do you think about all this storm stuff? And
yeah, I mean, it's really been quite the impact, right? It doesn't have to have a fancy name to do a lot of damage.
Right.
And that's one thing that the hurricanes all get named. The Kona Lows don't get named, right? But they're as big a thing, if not bigger.
Yeah. Right? And they're also kind of deceptive in that people will immediately go, what's a Kona Low? And then you say an extratropical cyclone, and they're like, okay, what's that? And it's like, it's a hurricane that don't spin right that comes from the south. Basically, like the dumbest terms, like,
well, you can see its impacts, and that's what really matters, right? Like you can see that it can have impacts widespread, right? There was, I think, at one point on a Kona side, something like 3 or 4 or more rivers across the highways. People were stuck in between, waiting for flash flooding to stop, all the way up to Kohala, I believe, right? So yeah, it was really, really something. And thankfully, our communities are prepared enough and smart enough to stay hunkered down and not try to cross any water. And what I've heard is just property damage, right? So that's
what I've heard.
One good thing about this. Yeah, that's all I have too. I think you guys are still running off the generator. You are, Dane. So maybe we'll just call it here. Yeah, call it here and hold off till next week for anything else and see what the volcano does, what this next storm does. Hopefully, get your power back by next week.
Hopefully,
and go from there, right?
Right.
All right. So, mahalo everyone once again for your support, for sticking with us all the way through. From our nonprofit HVERI, the Hawaiian Volcano Education Resilience Institute, we had Lou Tori here in the back end, just jumped off screen, giving some observations and community updates. We got ASL interpreters, Dano and Carrie up top. Mr. Dane DuPont, Hawaii Tracker, and I'm geologist Philip Ong. Until next week, everyone, stay safe out there. Aloha.